390 Wagon Master here. All right, I want to show you guys my Uniden President Jackson export. This was made in about 1985. Components are marked late 84 in here, so I'm just kind of assuming it's an 85 model. As you can see, it doesn't have any logo here. There's no President logo. These come with and without logos, and then the later versions came in what they call a black face, where the whole bezel here is black. Kind of a good looking radio, actually. Anyway, what we have here is just the basics: volume, squelch, mode, AM, FM, upper lower sideband, mic gain, RF gain, fine and coarse clarifier, and the band switch here. C is the CB band, D is 40 up, and E is another 40 up. So we're 80 above 40 and 80 below 1. Pretty cool. Have our meter control here, SRF and modulation, noise blanker, which is highly effective on this radio, 10 kC switch, and kind of a lame Roger beep. It's the proper tone, but not the proper timing. There is a mod for that. I have not done that mod. Okay, over here to the clarifier, we have fine and coarse, okay? And there's a real big detent right there on the coarse. I mean, it's up at center slot, it's in there. And then the fine clarifier will allow us that right fine tuning control that you sometimes can't get with the coarse, especially if you're mobile. So what they do here is the coarse clarifier, this one goes down around 6 or 7 kCs. I don't remember what it goes up, probably not quite as much, but you can get the zeros on here. So if you want to do 380, you just turn this down to like that. But the radio comes stock with the fine clarifier locked. So I always unlock those, and then you have to do a realignment. And the reason why I always unlock the fine, especially if this is in a cold environment, like maybe a mobile, or sometimes the case like my basement's just cold, I'll come down here, fire this radio up, and she'll be a couple hundred cycles low. Sometimes I'll have to start down here. And then as it warms up, you eventually end back up to center slot. The problem is sometimes, depending on the temperature, that shift can be so minute that you can try to get it there, but it'll fall back into the detent with the coarse. So I always set these up. I warm these up before alignment, make sure everything's at center slot, and then tune it that way. You have to make any fine adjustments, you have that. The unlock clarifier is a very important tool, guys. Very important to have. I know a lot of folks just don't believe it, but I don't think they get it, quite frankly. A nice and easy squelch, so I like the way the squelch operates on this. And mic gain, RF gain as usual, you know what I mean? They work just fine, but pretty interesting. The downside to this radio is the receiver. Now, as far as selectivity goes, it's a good receiver once you do a modification. And I understand this mod to be mostly on these first gens. I guess they fixed it later on down the road in production. But the AGC on here is too fast. It needs to be slowed down, which actually is the case with a lot of modern radios. But anyway, there's a mod on there. I did that mod, and I'll kind of show you where the area is. But now it's a pretty nice receiver. Speaking of cold radios, I just turned this thing on, and it is kind of cold down here. So I'll show you what I'm talking about with that clarifier. There's somebody on there, maybe. Yeah, there were people on there earlier. There we go. So we're cold, and I'm starting about right here on the clarifier. And when this radio warms up, I'll be able to dial it up here. Can't always get that with this detent here. See, as you can hear, it goes too far. So I can just dial that in like that. Anyway, okay. let's take a look inside. Actually, before we look inside, we'll take a look at the rear panel. Okay, SO239, standard Uniden 3-pin plug, external speaker PA. You'll notice it's in a different spot, and you know, mostly because of the heatsink. And it has a pretty interesting shaped heatsink. I think that's kind of cool. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this is kind of like first gen heat sinking, because Uniden, Ranger, and all those guys just kind of used a more standardized heat sink. However, these fins are larger, and I'm kind of thinking that they possibly do a better job, this style of heat sink. But being cut out like this, it's probably more expensive to produce a heat sink like this. But this radio definitely needs it. It's got the dreaded MRF 477. Definitely not something I like dealing with. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I don't really use this radio all that much, because once that IC's bad, it's spendy. It's pretty expensive to fix them. I mean, they're going for like $60+ if you can even find a real one. There is a replacement, but that's pretty much about the same price range. It's a direct replacement, but I believe at this point it might even be just as hard to find as the 477. I think the other one was a 497 or something like that. But anyway, this is definitely a high wattage radio. You know, people are saying it does 40 watts sideband. That's about what I'm getting. I'm getting about 35, maybe 40, just, you know, real quick. But yeah, as far as real talk power goes, you know, we're about 22 watts. So it's pretty healthy. And again, wattage is heat. So we need this heat sink on the back of here for sure. All right, now let's pop her open. Okay, inside view of the PB042AB PC board. So there's a following for these. Back in the day, I remember folks talking about these and saying that this was the ultimate CB radio. And you think about it, right? High power, you know, this was 30, 40 watts back in the day. That was kind of a thing. The clarifier would slide down so you could get zeros. It had a 10K, it has a 10kc switch in it, and then 80 above 40 and 80 below 1. Really, what more do you need? A variable power, that's what I'm thinking. But anyway, they almost nailed it. So when I bought this home, I'm just kind of going from memory here. Like I say, I bought this in about 2010-ish, brought it home, powered it up, and it wouldn't turn on. And I futzed around with the on-off switch, thinking it was maybe mechanical, because this was from a log truck driver's truck. And that wasn't it. So I let it sit there for a minute in the on position, and it finally came back. So that told me that it was either capacitors or solder joints. Took the top lid off, and the solder joints looked fine. I just did a quick scan over it, and it seemed to be okay. So I'm like, capacitance. So you get back here in this area, and this is kind of a problem area with these radios. So I found a 330 microfarad cap and replaced that. The radio came back to life. That being said, I let it sit and percutute for a day or so on the bench, and I just decided to just recap the whole thing. Unfortunately, I didn't take this radio all that serious, and I used up a bunch of caps that I had in like an Amazon capacitor kit, and they were extremely low quality. This should be all full of Panasonics and Nichicons and stuff, but I did not do that. Anyway, so it runs. I did an alignment on it back then, and the radio, I just didn't like it. The receive was not what I expected, not like a 3900, which is basically my gold standard. And I'm thinking, you know, this is a good board, and they say these things are really good, but this being a first gen, there must be something going on with it. So I did some research here just now that I brought it back out, and found that there's an AGC mod for this. And what you do is you take out some component. You take out a component, and then you add 3 resistors that are a different value. And so I did that, and the radio performs really well now. In fact, now that I'm getting familiar with that circuit, I think I'm going to try to fine-tune it just a hair more. I think I can get this to a 3900 style receiver. However, this is nice. Way better than any modern radio built today, any microprocessor built radio. The only drawback is, because of that gnarly clarifier and everything, these will be a little drifty. And once they warm up, they're okay. But if you don't mind, and again, that's why you unlock that fine clarifier, if you don't mind that brief drift period, then you're good to go with one of these. So went back through it again, full alignment. Actually, I took a cap out of here in a part of the circuit that I didn't feel was right, and my cheesy little cheap 3-cent capacitor did haunt me. But here's the AGC mod right here. You delete a cap, and then you change the value of 3 resistors. And yeah, it works out really well. I saw this in, I believe, a Lou Franklin book way back in the day, and CB Tricks has that mod on their site. Thank God for CB Tricks. Anyway, I haven't donated in years. I probably need to do that again if there's a way to do that. But anyway, that's the insides. It is a unit and chassis. It's the real thing. Okay, lids are on, and she's all powered up again. Still slightly off frequency because we're kind of a cold start here. But yeah, let's listen to it for a second here. Let's go down to a channel that's kind of clear. All right, real quick, we'll talk about the noise blanker. It's very effective in this. I'm in an old, early 1950s neighborhood with a substation about 125, 150 yards away. Overhead power lines, worst situation ever to run any kind of radio. And that will really play havoc with a lot of rigs, especially my modern radios. So that's why I generally like these older rigs. They're more selective, and they don't have all of that white noise from all that microprocessing. So anyway, before we did that AGC mod, this thing was unbearable here. When I tried to get rid of the noise, my power line noise, by pushing in the noise blanker, when I would get some noise blanking action and I had a big signal coming in from, big stations, they sounded really rough around the edges. And if I tried to listen to like the Super Bowl or Channel 28 on AM, it was unbearable. So anyway, I remember seeing somewhere, I believe in an old Lou Franklin book or something like that, some sort of a CB series, that these Mark 1s did that. I should say Mark 1 / first generations, that they did that, and there was a mod. So that was that mod where you swap out the 3 resistors and delete the cap. I did that mod and made this radio usable again. I'm pretty happy with it. So on AM, without the noise blanker, I had almost about an S9 static level. With the noise blanker, I had just a little over an S3. That wasn't one day, by the way. That was over the course of a few days. It was pretty much exactly the same. Unless it rains or snows at this location, I have that noise level 24/7. All right, so now we are noise blanker out. That's my noise level. Check this out. There we go. Now we can pull a signal out of the weeds. And again, that's why I prefer these radios over pretty much all of the new ones. All of them. The microprocessor noise on those radios is terrible. And then when you have to engage the A&L noise blanker in those radios to fight this power line noise that I have, signals will get choppy. They just they sound terrible, and it's really hard to copy somebody. It's also hard to copy somebody down in the weeds too, because they don't have the selectivity that these do. Maybe on a piece of test gear, yeah, okay, that's fine, but not in a real world situation. So anyway, pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with it. You know, back in the day, this was one of the radios to have because of the 80 channels up and the 10 kc switch. And then you can go down 5, 6, 7 kcs. So you can get zeros with plenty of flexibility for guys that were on zeros with their swans drifting all over the place, and you could chase them. All right. So you got the clarifier that slides down 5 with ease, with plenty of leeway. 10 kc switch, channeling up and down in the same in the proper order, and yeah, pretty nice little rig for sure. Now, I like it. Anyway, all right. If you have one of these or have used one of these, let me know in the comments down below. And thanks for watching. Cheers.